From tragedy that struck on March 24th, 1937, to the creation of quite possibly the most recognizable name in roller derby history, past or present, roller derby from 1937 to 1960 was a very, very interesting time, with the ending of one Seltzer to the rise of another. From San Bernardino, California, to your ears, this is the Team Hit Squad podcast. My name is Lloyd Knox and I represent Hit Squad TV. It's Wednesday, December 19th, 2018. Greetings and salutations to all of you skaters, entrepreneurs, and self-help enthusiasts. This is episode number 13. I believe it's episode number 13 of the Team Hit Squad podcast. I got a lot of things going on in my mind, and I usually have that particular part written down, but must have glossed over it. But we're not going to let that stop us. We're going to keep it going. I want to give a quick shout out to all of our sponsors. Anabolix Skate. You can check them out at anabolixskate.com. Best wheels on the market. Straight up. Make sure you get those. anabolixskate.com. And when you use Hit Squad TV as your code word, you're going to get yourself 10% off. EmpireSkateShop.com. When you use Hit Squad TV as your code, you get yourself 10% off. So laces, really helmets, pads from S1 to 187. They have Moxie skates as well out there. Check out Empire Skate Shop and use Hit Squad TV. Get yourself 10% off. RollerCon.com. I'm excited for RollerCon. It's July 17th to July 21st. It's going to be a grand old time out there, from the Rydell party, black and blue ball, to the top 4 most must-watch scrimmages out there. You need to go watch it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go to RollerCon.com. Make it happen. Is it July yet? Motaskates.com, for the skater by the skater. If you take yourself serious in roller derby competition, you're gonna want to get yourself some Mota skates. So make sure you check them out at motaskates.com. Big O Tournament. Big O Tournament is coming to you May 3rd all the way to May 5th. They do have a list of the current teams that are going out there. You're gonna have some teams from JRDA, MRDA, and WFTDA all competing for 3 days on 3 tracks. It's gonna be incredible. We also do have Team Hit Squad shirts available, as well as the Mr. Testosterone Just Spin shirt, currently on sale, $20, ships worldwide. All we need is your name, your size, your address, and you can send that information to paypal.me/HitSquadTV, and we'll get you all nice and hooked up with the newest Team Hit Squad gear. Hit Squad University East will be happening on January 6th, which is a Sunday, 2019. Address is 1779 North Spring Garden Avenue, DeLand, Florida. The coaches that we will be having out there is Coach Victor Dutch, Speed Bryu, Dizzy Izzy, hometown phenom Olivia Glisson. I'll be there teaching videography and how to grow your brand as an athlete, and newly added coach number 111 from New Jack City, Jacksonville Roller Derby, Jam Starella. So it's going to be a great time. We also are throwing our very first roller derby art show, thrown by us here at Hit Squad TV and the good people at the Alley Gallery in downtown Pomona, right by the Glass House. A mural of Hit Squad TV and roller derby will be painted on the wall by the phenomenal Cloak STP. There will be photographs from Tough Girls on 8 Wheels, Michael Weiss, Tristan King, as well as other great photographers from around the world. The Angry Artists will have some art on display as well. Check out the art. I'll have a few stories of some of my favorite moments in the sport and the importance of growing the sport through junior participation, which, crazy enough, Leo thought about that, and we're going to get into that in this subject. The address to this place is going to be 101 South Main Street, and that is in Pomona, California. So please come out, support your great people here at Hit Squad TV. We're making sure that everyone in the community knows that there's roller derby and that roller derby exists. You know, I can't try and attempt to grow roller derby internationally if I can't make it grow in my own city first. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to try and bring as many eyes to the product as possible. And then finally, the Team Hit Squad album, Blood, Sweat, Years, which is an instrumental album created by me. It will be released in January of 2019, so keep an ear and an eye out for that. It will be available on all streaming and downloading sites. Now that we finally got that out of the way, right under 5 minutes, let's get this whole thing going. Today's subject, History of Roller Derby, Part 2. So our story kind of starts off in the most horrific accident that affected roller derby off the track. On March 24th, 1937, 21 members of a touring group of roller derby skaters and support personnel were killed when their charter bus blew a tire while going 40 miles down a hill on US Route 50, collided with a bridge, rolled on its side, and bursted into flames, trapping passengers inside. The accident occurred near Salem, Illinois, as the bus was en route from St. Louis to Cincinnati for pretty much just another performance. Only a few of the 23 passengers escaped the burning wreckage, and 2 of them pretty much died later on with their injuries, bringing the total fatality to 19 or 20 depending on the source. But still, doesn't matter what the number is, we had a massive amount of people lost. The ghastly tragedy nearly put Seltzer out of business. But the show must go on, and replacement skaters were signed and roller derby survived. But as a tribute to those killed in the tragedy, the number 1 was permanently retired from all roller derby teams. That tradition, unfortunately, was forgotten in modern derby. And I'm not saying it's a reason why the old school hates us by basically not knowing our history, but this might be a bite size compared to the bigger problems and disagreements both sides have against one another. Anyways, moving on. In 1939, roller derby was broadcasted on radio in Los Angeles. The transcontinental roller derby rapidly grew in popularity as a spectator sport. Matches were held in 50 cities in 1940 for more than 5 million spectators, some of whom formed fan clubs and newsletters like Roller Derby News, later renamed Roller Rage. Teams began to represent and compete in other U.S. cities, although some teams were actually the same traveling group that would just change their names depending on where they were playing. And all were part of the Seltzer-owned Roller Derby League. The league's own estimates of audiences from 1941 were comparable, with 4 million Midwestern spectators in 20 cities being claimed. Just like I stated previously before, Leo was a marketing genius. His knack for understanding and evolving with the times was crucial for him. And it should be crucial for every person out there that runs a business, but sometimes we get so blinded by what we feel is more important, and while trying to cover a particular small hole, all of these other ones are popping up. Leo was ahead of the game, making sure that everything was going right for him. So, the entry of the United States into World War II at the end of 1941 interrupted the sport's ascent. Many skaters enlisted in armed forces. Crowds dwindled, and the fledgling league was reduced to one skating team, mainly for entertainment of soldiers. But after the war's end in 1945, Seltzer resumed growing the sport, although a 1946 attempt to bring it to the New York Polo Grounds failed due to 12 straight days of rain. Really raining on Leo's parade, or for this, like raining on their troop. Lame joke. I don't care. I stuck the landing. I committed to it and I made it happen. Proud. Self high five. Moving on. Just 2 years later, on November 29th, 1948, at 8:30 p.m., roller derby debuted on New York television, beginning a 13-week run on CBS network. Broadcasting at a time well before television was even widespread use. Now, I dug up some very cool fun facts about this. So, here are the fun facts. Some shows that were on during that time in 1948, like The Ed Sullivan Show, Texaco Star Theater, the original Amateur Hour, which paved the way for monster hit TV shows that you all know and love, like Star Search, American Idol, and America's Got Talent. Other shows were Meet the Press, CBS Evening News, which both are still on to this very day, and even Candid Camera, which did end in 2004. They all started in 1948. So next time you're at a party and, you're standing awkwardly by yourself like I usually do, you can kind of pop up over to the next person to you obviously enjoying the music, and you could tell them that, hey, roller derby is one of the first sporting events televised alongside Original Amateur Hour, which was opened the door for America's Got Talent and Kelly Clarkson. Hashtag since you've been gone. Hashtag that song is bad as F. You'll be the star of the party, guaranteed, the jammer star, if you will. Okay, I'll stop. I'll stop now. Next. The first televised matches were between teams representing New York and Brooklyn, and took place at the 69th Armory, 4 nights a week, which was actually a reduction from the troupe's usual touring schedule that included a performance every single day, sometimes with 2 on Sundays. Although few people owned TVs at the time, broadcasts could be seen on sets at the bar and storefront windows. The fledgling medium allowed underwhelming audience size to be made to look like they had packed venues to a capacity, leading spectators to turn out in droves for subsequent matches. Armory crowds began in the low hundreds, but were soon in the 5,000 to 7,000 range. Then, in July 1949, Seltzer secured an appearance at Madison Square Garden before a crowd of 55,000 people over a 5-day period. Early stars of roller derby after its debut on TV included Ken Monte, Burt Wall, and the temperamental Midge Tuffy Brassoon. Skater salaries were about $200 to $260 a week, established by Players Association. Leo, as well as Derby Jesus, also made sure that people were paid. Now, the extent of who got paid, I'm not sure about those details, but the Seltzers always seemed to make sure people were paid, something that we're completely missing in modern roller derby today. I know we were raised DIY, and I mean, Leo was DIY as well, but he also realized that he couldn't do everything by himself. There needed to be a level of professionalism, in a sense that if he was going to be taken serious in the entertainment and sports industry, sports, entertainment, hashtag WWE, hashtag Vince McMahon Sr. and Leo Seltzer could have been the same person. That is a long hashtag, but I'll stop. I know we were raised DIY. I know that. But that shouldn't be an excuse. If you're going to take yourself professionally, you need to start paying people to make sure that they are giving their absolute utmost best. If you want the best to represent your brand, you need to also look into bringing in, if you possibly can, the best artists, best directors. I don't know. Best overall. You can't just bring in people just because they're your friends. That's not how business works. It's definitely not how business works. Maybe in certain senses, maybe your best friend is the best artist. There's loopholes behind everything. Anyways, I digress. Meanwhile, from 1946 through 1948, flat track roller derby of the skating marathon variety was enjoyed as an intramural sport at the University of British Columbia in Canada. Fun. For the 1949-1950 season, Seltzer opened franchise teams and formed the National Roller Derby League, NRDL. The NRDL consisted of 6 teams: the New York Chiefs, the Brooklyn Red Devils, the Jersey Jolters, the Philadelphia Panthers, the Washington/Baltimore Jets, and the Chicago Westerners. The Jolters played at armories in Newark, New Jersey, Teaneck, and Patterson. The Westerners played in Chicago, but also in Columbus, Ohio, Miami, Florida. The Red Devils had no venue in Brooklyn and were essentially a road team, often cast as villains. NRDL season playoffs sold out Madison Square Garden on its very first week. For an entire week. Everything leading up to this point has me feeling like Leo had that Midas touch. Every venture, with the exception of the copywriting, the Transcontinental Roller Derby, and of course the terrible loss of life in that horrid crash in the late 30s, everything was going right for Leo and roller derby in general. Also in 1949, When the CBS contract expired, broadcast was taken over by ABC, and games were televised live throughout the United States. The contract with ABC lasted until Seltzer negotiated its termination in 1951 over scheduling disputes. And we're going to get into that scheduling dispute in just a little bit. So, between 1949 and 1951, Seltzer's organization brought in $2.5 million, bolstered by Madison Square Garden appearances in 1950 and 1951 that set the 5-day records of 77,000 and 82,000 respectively. In this period, Seltzer also sold the Jolters to an outside syndicate. Skater salaries negotiated by an informal players union were about $250 a week, with $35 and $60 bonuses for captains and players/coaches. Now, I want to break this down to you. And really, I want to break this down to you. Check it out. Getting people paid. So, $250 in 1951, adjusting for inflation. Players were getting paid $2,465.24 before taxes. $2,500 a week. Now, I know what you're thinking because I already know what you're going to say. I'm a mind reader, I guess. It was a different era. Yeah, you're right. 100%. I 100% agree. But we have something that he didn't. The internet. We have the entire world in our hands to create popularity in our sport. Leo had to travel, depend on word of mouth, promoting, and created an empire that has grown for 20 plus years up to that point. People were getting paid because the leader was doing the necessary work to make sure that everyone that skated under his flag got those funds. So my advice is learn how to promote besides just Facebook and Instagram. I'm not saying I know the answers, obviously, but if you need help with your league, contact me. Contact business owners. Business owners, research them as well. Swallow your pride and get help. We want modern roller derby to be as big and as successful as the old school. Study Leo. Go deeper than the knowledge I'm giving you now and get to know the sport that you love. So, during the early 50s period, the players wanted to skate phony. But Seltzer believed the public would soon tire of exaggerated hits and falls. That connection is going to make a lot more sense in podcast numero 3. So he thought that people were going to get tired of the falls and the hits. So he embarked on a campaign to legitimize the sport. He started a program encouraging the formation of junior roller derby leagues for children. Although it's not clear whether any was actually formed. He sought to add more teams nationwide, although it didn't happen until 1954. And he got the players to agree to a no railing rule. In a show of commitment, Seltzer invoked the rule to suspend skating star Midge Tuffy, much to her own dismay, for allegedly shoving another skater into the track's outer railing, even though the play had been faked by other skaters. By the early 1950s, roller derby coaches were even betting on the outcomes of matches, another sign of legitimacy, according to Seltzer. Players later pointed to injuries and low-scoring games as evidence of legitimacy as well. But even into the 1970s, roller derby players engaged in a degree of showmanship and staged theatrics for dramatic and comedic effects. Now, I like that. I like that they did that for the grand, simple fact that they cared about the audience. Obviously, the audience is paying, for inflation reasons. Let's just compare prices of what we're paying now. I remember a local bout that I went to that I didn't film at all. It was $25. $25. My heart kind of hurt when I paid it. Although I love the sport and I love the people that were playing, of course I was going to pay it. But it hurt. It really did. I'm like, And what did I expect and what did I see? None of the players caring about the crowd. The players only cared about their particular family, to go talk to them and to talk to the visiting skaters, but never interacted with any of the crowd. What is going on? Why do we not care about the audience? Why do we not care about the young lady that's maybe 9 or 10 years old and watching you skate and watching derby for the first time and falls in love with it? Why are we not making an attempt to make connections with fans? Why are we not making ourselves more available? I realize that it might be bad showmanship or bad sportsmanship, I should say, when you get yourself a nice 20-point jam and you held your other jammers scoreless and you're celebrating. Celebrate. It's something to celebrate. It's something that you busted your butt off for to actually make happen during practices when you were crying because you just weren't able to hold on and coaches and players were looking at you all crazy. When you actually complete something like that, celebrate. It means a lot to your crowd, to your audience. Forget what these other people are thinking, the other team. That other team didn't pay you. That other team didn't give you money, although they might not ever want to play you again. There's also a divide on when you are celebrating with your crowd and, excuse my language, you're being an asshole. I'm not suggesting to go to the opposing bench and be like, haha, John Cena, you can't see me. As that music's going on, right? You got your left hand on your right elbow and you're just like, dun, 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 dun. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if those points that you scored meant something to you, celebrate. The top athletes celebrate. Scald Eagle celebrates. Lady Trample celebrates. Even at times, Much Mayhem celebrates. Bonnie Thunders at times celebrates because they realize that the crowd matters. Stop putting your own feelings into this and start listening to the emotions of your fans. And that's exactly what Leo did. Anyways, let's move on. After terminating the contract with ABC in 1951, Seltzer negotiated a deal with General Motors to sponsor the broadcast of games on NBC. But the deal fell through when, according to Seltzer, GM, fuming over the NCAA decision preventing them from sponsoring the broadcast of the University of Notre Dame's football games, lost interest in televising any sports at all. A handful of independent TV stations continue to broadcast games, but the loss of the network broadcast caused fans' interest to plummet. Madison Square Garden no longer wanted to host matches, fan clubs disbanded, and Seltzer returned to pursuing real estate in Encino, aka Los Angeles, moving on westward out there to try and find, and they basically foreshadowed the change. So this was the first major loss that Leo took in 20 years. Seltzer took a gamble to terminate the contract with NBC, or more or less the NBC took over, I should say. And when they tried to renegotiate, NBC said, nah, get out of here. If I can't broadcast all these sporting events, like Notre Dame was big during that time, they lost that, they lost interest. So, one thing that history has taught me, though, is that you can't keep good ideas down. So in July 1953, citing the effects of the Korean War, Leo Seltzer moved the Derby from New York to Los Angeles and created the LA Braves for their debut at the Rose Bowl. The Braves became the first international team when a tour of Europe was launched in 1953. But I want you to check this out. However, this was not the first time audiences outside of the U.S. had even seen a game played. A separate organization, the International Roller Speedway, known in some countries as RollerCatch, formed in 1937 and toured Europe, where they played at the Haringey Arena in London and the Philippines. Roller Speedway was a modified version of the sport and normally featured two teams representing Europe, aka the home team, and the U.S. The 1950 film The Fireball, starring Mickey Rooney, was based on a life of one of the league's stars, a skater that skated under the name Eddie Cesar. But even with that even with their long legacy and even a movie, the roller speedway ceased operations in 1952, and Leo took advantage. Now, in 1954, the Derby established the most fabled team in the history of the sport, the longtime champions, San Francisco Bay Bombers. Stars on this team included Charlie O'Connell, Joni Weston, and the name that we still recognize, especially at TXRD, and Cavello. In his keynote address at the 2007 Roller Derby convention, RollerCon, July 17th to July 21st. Is it July yet? Is it July yet? Yes, I made a song out of that. Don't care. Leo's son did a keynote address in 2007's RollerCon. Jerry Seltzer revealed that at its peak in the 1950s, the National Roller Derby League had just 83 skaters spread among its 6 teams. Just a random fun fact that didn't really have much to do with it. Plus, I wanted to say RollerCon. RollerCon. Make sure you go to RollerCon. I love RollerCon. Anyways, we're losing focus. Sorry about that. In 1958, weary of roller derby's off-air struggle, by this time, crowds at San Francisco's Cow Palace had dwindled to about 200 or less. Modern roller derby knows about... I'll stop. Leo transferred roller derby to his son, Jerry. Jerry's vision for the game changed the way we see roller derby today. Jerry, ushering in a new era, had traveling and television in mind. Jerry soon struck a deal with independent Oakland TV stations KTVU to broadcast roller derby matches, kinescoped in a deserted garage. Now, what did we learn today? Although things can get bad, when you have a passion and an intelligence for something you love, you try and find ways to keep it going. There was an incredible jump in the 30s and 40s and an early portion of the 50s, but with the power of television, with everyone starting to own one, Jerry saw this as an opportunity of a lifetime to get eyes back on the Derby. Now, I will warn you, there is a rant coming on, so I want you to please bear with me. It's something that I felt I need to really voice. Like I said, I love roller derby. Although I don't skate in it, and although I hate the fact that WFTDA still uses "for the skater, by the skater" as their slogan, because it's not. It's not for the skater, by the skater. I can't stand that quote. Mota Skate, which, by the way, their slogan is "for the skater, by the skater," is completely okay because they are creating things for the skater. WFTDA having "for the skater, by the skater" is basically saying screw the fans. Straight up. That's all I see. That's all we read. Why would I want to invest in something like that? Of course, I invest in it because there's so many great people in roller derby that I want to help, that I no longer want to help WFTDA. I don't want to help them. Not that they were asking for help in the first place. Let's back that up and say that WFTDA is not looking for me in any way, and that's okay because I wanted to work with them, and when I got rejected by them saying that my videos and my work is too artistic, too creative, we decided to double down on that, and now we are influencers in roller derby, meaning we see trends, we study roller derby, we can see trends coming from a mile away, and this is a trend that I saw from the moment I stepped foot in roller derby. That organization over there does not care. And not because they're showing that they don't care. It's just because of their slogan. Obviously they care. They do care. They care about the athletes that are out there, their insurance, and all of that stuff. But I digress on all that. I want to get to the main point that I wanted to aim my rant on. It's almost like where we're at right now, as far as Jerry wanting to get derby on television and to travel and to make it big because he sees that television is an opportunity of a lifetime that really came up during his generation and took full advantage of that. And that's where we're at right now. We had a big spike of interest back in Derby with Whip It when that came out. It was like 2008, 9, 10, around that general area. But as much as you thought you took advantage of it, the reality is we messed up our golden opportunity to get us back to the spotlight and prove that our Derby is different and that we pay attention to athleticism. Instead, we fumbled. ESPN still took us as a joke as they were presenting clips from last year's WFTDA championship bout between Rose City and Victoria, shown on ESPN the Ocho. Now, the way that went down was ESPN had the Ocho come out during that weekend, and they had roller derby on there. And it was, I remember Scald Eagle calling it off or whatever, and they were showing the bout of Gotham versus Rose City. And they were showing it on ESPN the Ocho. But instead of paying attention to what everything was going on during that bout, they were talking about the old school roller derby. They were talking about the 70s, the 60s, the 50s. They were talking about all that. What that proves to me is that we, as modern roller derby, are not doing a good enough job educating the public. It's not the public's problem to try and figure us out. It's not. Just like, for example, football or badminton or tennis or something like that. Let's just use tennis. If you don't understand tennis, you're not going to follow it. You're not going to follow players. I mean, it's really up to it's up to the person and the general public to try and figure it out. But tennis gives information. Tennis, if you want to find anything, you can find it very, very fast when it comes to these major sports. Roller derby doesn't do anything like that. Roller derby depends on small videos that's being shown on Facebook. They're like, hey, this is how the game is played. No, stop. Where are the superstars? WFTDA has a major amount of superstars. Freight Train, Lady Trample, Scald Eagle, Much Mayhem, Bonnie Thunders. Do we need to keep going? Why are we not creating these stars, putting them in front of posters of WFTDA? Join the revolution. They're not doing it. They're not promoting. They're not doing it. Straight up, you can argue with me all you want, but you're not doing it. If Leo saw the way Derby was being presented right now, he would have been probably genuinely angry. Jerry, on the other hand, would have seen this bad situation as great opportunities. Although we were being ridiculed, the higher-ups, the management, could have looked at ways and opportunities to make this bad situation turn into something beautiful and golden. But instead, WFTDA decides to write a letter to tell ESPN to do better. Meanwhile, Derby right now is in a chaos and in flames internally, something Leo, in hindsight, never let happen. There's history here that we must learn from. That quote that says, learn your history or you're doomed to repeat it, it applies here as well. Our quote-unquote leaders needs to face these problems head on in the most creative way possible. You have the technology, although very, very crappy live stream, might I add, that I stopped paying for a year ago because, yeah, you're charging $90 for the entire year, super cool, but what's the point if your live stream is crap? The live stream drops every 10 minutes on my phone. It drops every couple minutes on my television, on my laptop. Why am I going to pay you $90? Why during championship weekend this past year was I over at a friend's house and it kept dropping the entire first half? The second half was good, not the first half though. And that was on the entire first day. If someone discovered roller derby and they're like, yeah, I'll pay $15 to watch the championship weekend, and they see this failure of a live stream, they will not come back. They will not come back. Your first impression is the most important impression that you are ever going to give to a person or an audience. There's a lot of stuff that WFTDA, MRDA need to fix. JRDA is already on its way to fixing all of those problems. I'm proud of JRDA. WFTDA and MRDA, that's a completely different story. In all honesty, you can't truly expect to garner new fans just because you have 1,300 leagues around the world. You can't expect fans to find you. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're going to find us because we're empowering and this. No, you're not. You're not finding anybody. Yeah, you have 1,300 leagues. But there's a million basketball teams out there. There's a million football, soccer teams. And we're bragging about 1,300. Get out of here. Stop bragging about your numbers and get to work. My goal and expectation for roller derby is that in the next 15 years, it's going to get big. And it's not because of the athletes that are happening today. It's because of the juniors. The pure raw athleticism of the juniors that they learned since they've been skating since they were little kids. I think Lil Regulator was skating since she was like 2 or 3 or maybe even younger or maybe older. I don't know, but I know it's been from such a young age. And we see this young lady now on the track owning everything. That's the next little Bonnie Thunders. Straight up. Straight up. An incredible blocker, incredible self-awareness of the track. And it's just not with just her. You have junior athletes from all over the United States as well as all over the world. WFTDA did do something right with focusing on juniors, which JRDA came through and they focused on it. I like the fact that there's 2 different organizations, not WFTDA running JRDA, because if that's the case, they're going to run it to the ground, straight up. If there is a connection like that, cut it off. JRDA should be its own organization, run its own thing, run its own sponsorships. Be yourselves, by yourselves. That's all I'm saying. So you can't expect fans to find you. You can't expect fans to find you if you're just putting flyers or documents online. It might seem like our whole world is in the internet, like I kind of stated before. But with all the money that WFTDA garner, spend it on ads around major cities. Not just a bar, not just a website. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this is because I do love roller derby. Roller derby is how I make my living, my money. So, me as a full-on investor and full-on believe in roller derby that this is the only way that I'm supporting my family. Yeah, I have big things to say, and I'm not saying that my opinion should matter more than someone that does this part-time. But I have a few valid points that I would like to be able to speak to someone higher up about and really get an opportunity to question what's going on. You take the NBA, NFL, and any other major organizations, you know, they do this. They do that type of promoting around major cities and all that. And I know they have millions and billions of dollars. I get that. I see your excuse. But now that's exactly what you're doing. You're fighting me with an excuse. The NBA and NFL were never cash cows in the beginning. Just like roller derby. They focused on how to bring in people to watch their games. The NBA, cursed with fights, were on the verge of closing down in the 70s. You want to know what saved them? Business savvy. What saved them was a rivalry. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. It fueled the 80s. It brought them out of the dark time in the 70s and brought them into one of the most prosperous eras in NBA history, the 80s. The NBA was smart enough to capitalize on the rivalry, although it was racially charged with people claiming that the Celtics were the team for whites, even though Robert Parrish and the others would like to have a word with you about that. And the Lakers being a black team. Once again, Kurt Rambis is a bad man. If you ever get a chance to learn about Kurt Rambis, learn about Kurt Rambis. That's my dude right there. And as Kurt Rambis and others would like to have a word with you about that. In between that, you had the Bad Boy Pistons with the young and very hungry Dennis Rodman, Dr. J. Julius Erving in the early 80s winning his only title with Philadelphia. They took a sport that was on the verge of collapse to now it's challenging soccer or football as the most played sport in the world. Crazy. And Derby was on TV before the NBA. Matter of fact, the endurance races are older than the invention of basketball itself. Remember what I told you, Al, that first race, I think that the dude that skated for 10 hours and completed, I think, 100 miles in 10 hours, that was really the beginning of it, and that was in 1984. I don't think basketball existed. I think it existed during that era, during those last 20 years of the 19th century. Leo and Jerry had the idea, but there were a lot of things that brought them down. Some were part of their control, like the Bombers and San Fran winning the title almost every year. People don't like a stagnant product. They want to be surprised, things to change. They want that one team to be dethroned, see different champions, see different stories. To some of the things that they just, couldn't really do. They couldn't really control, like the war. There's just a lot of things that they were not able to control. The NBC and the General Motors falling out of negotiations, but just like the wheels on our skates, we roll on. I want to thank each and every single individual that stood to the very end listening to my ridiculous, crazy rant. I do have faith that WFTDA will create a product that will benefit roller derby. But right now, it really truly needs to sit down with the community that they built and created and talk to them. Calm the fires down. There's a lot of internal problems that are happening. And I would love nothing more in this world than to be able to see a Scald Eagle or a Lady Trample on ABC, on ESPN. But we are years away from that. And the only people that are standing in the way for our success is our own selves. We are our worst enemy. We are stopping ourselves from becoming bigger. Our egos are in the way. Our ways of thinking that we're right is in the way. We need to stop. We need to humble ourselves. And we need to listen to, and we also need to do research on how to create a better product. Better product for the local teams, the local community. I mean, you have teams of local teams out here that we work with, like Foothill Foxy Flyers and North County Derby Alliance. We need to help these smaller leagues create a following and create a fan base, and we can start doing that with all of these small leagues. I mean, you have 1,300 leagues out there. You can make this happen. This is possible. This isn't impossible. I mean, even in impossible, it's telling you that it's possible by saying, I'm possible. Not impossible, I'm possible. Make it happen. Anyways, I want to thank each and every single person that tuned in and listened to this awesome podcast about part 2 of the history of roller derby. I find the history very interesting and also very frustrating that all of these problems that we've seen in the past are happening right now, but we're not learning. We're not learning from the past. And I hope that our leaders can pay attention and open their eyes and finally lead us to a promised land that they've been promising since 2004, 5, 6, whatever. Like, I know they started in 04 and then the first championship was in 06, so around that area. Anyways, big ups to anabolixskate.com, empireskateshop.com, rollercon.com, multiskates.com, and bigotournament.com for allowing myself, Lloyd Knox, the opportunity to sit here 5 days a week and give you tips on how to live a better life, how to helping create better entrepreneurs as well as self-help enthusiasts. So without further ado, you've been a wonderful audience. I've been Lloyd Knox. I want you all to have a wonderful, beautiful day, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Peace out.